Hello and good day, eh? Welcome to the Super Good Camping Podcast. My name is Pamela.
And I'm Tim.
And we are from supergoodcamping.com. We are here because we are on a mission to inspire other families to enjoy camping adventures such as we have with our kids. Today we wanted to do sort of just a rapid fire impromptu. What's the worst that could happen while you're camping and what could you do about it? So we made up actually a couple of lists, and we probably have far more than we could do in one episode. But if you enjoy this episode, let us know and we will do the same thing again. First up on our list is, what if you forgot equipment or food? Front country, that might not be such a big deal, but backcountry is a different issue and probably has happened, I think, at least once.
So yes. If Thomas, so a thing I've tried to do the last couple of years anyhow is dump some responsibility on the kids and make them do the stuff. They do a better job now, but they have historically done a terrible job of it. That's part of the learning process, so that's kind of okay. Not so good when you show up in the backcountry and you go, hey, where's the, and you get that blank look or that, oh, poop look.
Or there's another bin at home that we didn't bring.
Which we don't bring bins into the backcountry. So front country, it's not such a big deal. Backcountry, if you show up without a stove, things are going to suck. If you show up without a water filter and you don't have backup, the iodine pills or what have you, things are going to suck. What do you do? You build a fire. You kind of go to great lengths. We have a list. I'm a list-driven sort of guy, and I do double check marks. I do check marks to make sure that it ends up on the table or in the bag or in the pile or the whatever, and then I do check marks to make sure that it ends up in the vehicle to go with us, because those are both stumbling points, easy places for things to not play out well.
It got set down on the table beside all the camping stuff, and then
didn't make it into the car. Yeah, that happens. That happens far too often. Thomas and I have shown up. The important things I make a point of, I will oversee. There's supposed to be a lighter, whether it's a barbecue lighter or your standard, Bic lighter. There's also supposed to be waterproof matches. Both are highly important, especially if you're into rain, if you tip the canoe, etc., etc. The waterproof matches will be your lifesaver. There's supposed to be the MSR, the pocket rocket in there, should that happen and not go, which thankfully hasn't happened yet, or the fuel doesn't make it or whatever. You can theoretically, as long as you've got a source of flame, you can set a fire. You can cook your food, you can boil water so that you can make it's drinkable and you don't run into beaver fever or anything nasty. Showing up without food, that's not going to go well. You can, but you need to know, or you need to have a source of information about what's edible in the backcountry.
You need to do some foraging, do some fishing, gather some nuts.
Fishing's a good thing. Mushrooms are a good thing, but that can go poorly for you.
It can be poisonous.
Yeah, poisonous, or you can have a different experience than you were intending. Food's unlikely to play out well. This past trip, and this isn't picking on them, we've already had the discussion. Actually, the past two trips, breakfast things didn't go, and I'm still not quite sure what happened, but our freeze-dried eggs didn't go, our oatmeal didn't go, bacon didn't go. We ate a lot of granola bars that were meant to be snacks. They became that's what breakfast turned into. So yeah.
So adapt, or if it's worse comes to worse, you might have to just
turn around and
change your trip, and go to the grocery store, get some stuff.
We've done that. We made some adjustments on both of these past backcountry trips to accommodate things that didn't make it with us, and weather and stuff like that, because weather can go wrong as well. I got sick last year, started running a fever day 3, I think. And we rode it out for another couple of days, but we shortened up our trip. We just bailed and paddled out through two more days worth of camping. We just paddled our way out and came home. I can't say that I minded the deliciously decadent burger and fries earlier than we normally would get, but I missed the 2 days we didn't get. So that's it.
All right. So when you're setting up your tent and you're fine and everything's good, and then the rain suddenly hits, Suddenly you discover that there were holes in your tent that you didn't know existed.
Yeah, or the waterproofing has worn off. I mean, it's welcome to the nature of the beast. That's just how it goes. So, what's the phrase? You don't know your tent leaks until it does. Tarp every time, unless we are only there for 3 days and there's a 0% chance in the forecast of rain, we tarp. You could also run into a situation where there aren't the trees around to tarp. You know what? Just drape your tent in a tarp. Use rocks to peg down the corners as best as you can to keep it from blowing off if the wind picks up. That's a poopy one. Being in a wet sleeping bag I can tell you from experience, is no fun.
And what about if your canoe gets overturned?
There are differing opinions on how to load your canoe with that in mind. There's a school of thought that you should tag everything to your canoe, like tie it off to your canoe so you don't lose it. Me personally, I think that would be... I'm not an expert. I am not an expert at all. I would rather go downstream. I don't care if I'm a half an hour of doing whatever to find my gear and stuff and potentially not get some of it back. I'd rather be able to turn my canoe back over. If I've got all that gear tied to it, yes, I have all my gear, but I'm also kind of screwed. I'll never flip that canoe with all that gear tied to it. I'll also highly unlikely get it to shore to deal with it in any other way, shape, or form. So if your canoe tips, basically you're hoping you can paddle to somewhere where you can put your feet down and be able to flip it back up and drain it out. There are ways to do it. We actually, Thomas and I did a thing where we were both in the water and we managed to flip our canoe back up. It's hard. It takes a boatload of core strength, which I don't have. We fluked out. I highly recommend not tipping your canoe.
Maybe somebody else is around to help you tip it back over.
Oh yeah, solo would be brutal, and that's a scary deal, man. To be out there and flip it on your own. That's something that's outside of my wheelhouse by sure.
What if you get to your site, didn't realize that it wasn't an electric site?
Well, if you're car camping, for sure. Well, you're SOL.
No electricity for you.
Yeah, hopefully you've got headlamps with batteries, or you've got Lucy lights, or
rechargeable solar panels, something.
Most of the cooking equipment, because really the important things are shelter and being able to feed yourself, right? We can make a whole list, but those are the important ones. So if you've got a tent or your camper or whatever it is, then you're good. If you've got a tarp at least to get underneath, then you're good. Most cooking things aren't electric unless it's in your camper and it's electric, but even those are mostly propane.
My sister likes to glamp and bring a toaster.
Your sister's no, I'm not going there.
No, it's family.
We have a toaster, but we use it in a fire or over a Coleman single burner or something like that. Like that's how that works for us. It's also about 30 years. No, maybe 40 years old. Sorry for sidetracking there. Yeah, if you don't have an electric site and you were planning on it, well, sucks to be you. It's as bad to forget that the extension cord that you need, that's the one that is a big deal. But most park offices, certainly in Ontario, you can go and borrow one from them. They often have, because they have descriptions on the website about how far it is, how far they anticipate you parking, and from the post that has the power, and those numbers, that number isn't always how it plays out. I hear lots of people complaining about being much farther away from the post. We generally don't do electric sites. Actually, I can't think of a time we've done an electric site. So.
What if your car breaks down?
CAA. That's it. I mean, you're going to be...
This actually happened to us.
This happened to us. We're going back quite some time ago. My car slowly lost. It was a 5-speed Sunfire, and at some point, I would say less than an hour up to 400, it became a 4-speed, and then it was a 3-speed, and then I just rolled off at the next overpass and parked it because it was screaming in third gear and doing 70 kilometers an hour on the highway. So we had. I think I had CAA Premium at the time. I understand it's considerably more expensive now, but I had a 200 kilometer limit for the tow, and we were, it was 3 kilometers to Killbear from where I found myself on the side of the road. So buddy threw us up on the hook, and Thomas and I climbed in the truck with him and had a great. It was awesome. He's a super outdoors guy. We just yacked. We spent 2 hours just yakking while he towed us and literally dropped us in our campsite, and we found a local guy. Not far outside of Killbear. It was a per tow thing. We were allowed 200 kilometers, or I had enough buffer left, or whatever. The same guy came the next day or the day after that, towed it from the campsite to Buddy's garage, and he replaced the transmission, and that turned into a whole thing. But that worked out really well. So CAA is a potential lifesaver as far as that goes.
CAA for the win.
CAA, there you go.
And what about fires? Forest fires?
So yeah, forest fires. So what happens for sake of argument, whether you're deep in the back country, front country is not going to be such a big deal. You're going to get notifications from the park staff, from the park office. If there's an evacuation, they're going to come around and let you know. A little more difficult to get that information in the backcountry, and which segues well into, a lack of available communication, meaning no cell signal, that sort of deal. What do you do with that kind of thing? You know what? We take a weather radio with us, an emergency. I think it's called an emergency radio, but whatever. We listen to the weather bands. We had a hurricane warning one year out in the only site on the lake that was, I don't know, was better part of 2-click portage back into the middle of nowhere. And yeah, hurricane warning. Oh, okay. Well, batten down the hatches. But they also, if there is a localized emergency of any type, they also broadcast it on said weather band. So yeah. That's the win for us. I suspect if there was an emergency thing, because on your Garmin or your InReach or for us it's a Zoleo, I think that they would probably broadcast something not dissimilar to what we have here in Ontario, an Amber Alert. Yeah, get the hell out.
I believe there was an evacuation of the French River one year, wasn't there, with the forest fires?
There was something. That's only a few years ago too.
Yeah.
It's welcome to climate change. Yeah, if you suspect anything, you smell smoke or whatever, you know what? Maybe adjust your plans. Play safe. Always play safe.
What if you're lost?
Stay where you are. The very first thing. Stay where you are. Look for something to signal with. Whether you build, find a beach and build like a close by beach. Meaning you walked 10 meters or something. Take rocks, build an SOS sign, start a signal fire. Hopefully you're traveling, even if you're just on a hike off your site. I don't know that going back to you, if you're lost, you can't get back to your site. So hopefully you have been smart and you brought, a pack with you that's got some snacks and some water, because those are really important things to if you leave your site, because of the potential to get lost or who knows, some kind of accident, you break your friggin' ankle, whatever. If you've got those things, you probably got a first aid kit. And if you listen to me talk about first aid kits, in my first aid kit is where my emergency blanket is, which is a reflective piece of Mylar that's meant to reflect body heat back at you, but boy does it ever work well as a signal device as well. It reflects light. There's going to be, at some point there's going to be search planes or search parties, hopefully, that you can, that's your best bet. Unless you have your, it's dark and you're lost because you can't see, you don't have your headlamp, unfortunately, but you do have a map and a compass or whatever. Okay, so sit tight. Pull out that reflective blanket, wrap yourself up in it, eat a granola bar, drink some water, get yourself a good night's sleep, and then in the morning when you can see, pull out your compass, pull out your map that you have smartly brought with you, and unlostify yourself.
And you'll see in our episode on essentials for camping and hiking, backcountry camping and hiking, we've just listed a lot of those things that Tim just said. So if you want to listen to that episode too, it ties in nicely.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's it for us for today. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed our episode. If you want to hear more, please do let us know. Our email address is hi@supergoodcamping.com. That's hi@supergoodcamping.com. And we are on all the social media. We would love to connect with you. Talk to you again soon. Bye.
Bye.